Welcome guys, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking about the new patch notes that just hit the test server. We're talking about patch 1.014, and there's a lot of good stuff in here, especially regarding to performance improvements. So that's going to be cool to read. I have not read this through yet, but I did read some leaked patch notes that was translated from Vietnamese. So this is going to be much cleaner, and I'm looking forward to reading it. So let's go. Hi everyone. This patch we're overhauling throwables, continuing to tune weapon and attachment balance, and shipping a whole mess of performance improvement. Yes. First, let's share a little context about the changes to throwables. To restore the trusty frag's killing power, we're buffing its effective range and its damage. Stun grenades. Stun grenades have never been the most popular pickups, and recent changes to frag grenades and audio effects have made them feel a bit redundant. Totally agree. To make stun grenades more rewarding, they will now affect stun players' vision, hearing, and their ability to shoot accurately. We're also bumping up the stun grenade's effective radius and introducing new animations so it's possible to tell when your grenades have stunned your opponents. See, this is really good. This is interesting. So now we're going to have an effect, like, I'm not sure how it's going to look. We will have to check, but it's probably going to be something like a player doing like this, you know, covering their face or something like that, so you can see that someone is blind, because usually when you flash someone, you have no idea, so you have to guess, and that's extremely dangerous, making them really bad. And of course, well, this is just really exciting, and I'm hoping, even though this doesn't say it, but I'm hoping that there's also going to be a minor flash effect when it pops behind you. Like, it doesn't say it, but that would be like the last thing it needed, in my opinion. But let's see how it is. And then with Molotovs, these have traditionally been among the least popular items in the game. Yes, to make Molotovs more useful, we're increasing their area of effect, introducing new properties that allow fire to spread along walls and wooden surfaces in houses, and imposing new debuffs on players who catch on fire. That's interesting. Okay, this is really cool, the throwables here. Okay, one last thing before we jump into the patch. We're nerfing the M24, removing it from care packages and adding it into world spawn loot tables. Our goal is to make it a viable alternative to the Car 98K that players actually get to use. As always, we'll keep an eye out on all of these balance changes and continuously make adjustments and improvements. Now on to the change list. Now, before we get on with the change list here, I just want to say that this is a good choice, because the M24, ever since it could not one-shot a level 3 helmet, it has not belonged in an airdrop, in my opinion. I've said this a lot of times. I feel like it was an inferior weapon to find, and arguably the worst airdrop weapon. So I think this is really cool, and surely, yes, you need to lower the damage a bit to make it reasonable to have it as a wall drop, but cool. I'm excited about it. So, patch notes here. Gameplay. Improvements have been made to throwables, frag grenades, stun grenades, and Molotovs. Yes, so let's look a bit on this. Oh, so this is the area of effect from the frag grenades. So the lethal damage is up to 3.5 meters. Which is kind of a big radius, actually. And then we got 8.5 meters for moderate damage, and low damage up to 10 meters. So that's cool. I think this seems okay. Could be slightly concerned that the lethal damage is a bit big, but let's see about it. Stun grenades. Oh. So there you have it, basically. The direct effect is in front of you, just like I did show in a video. Although I will say that 100 degrees in front of you, when I tested this, it was a wider angle, like closer to 170 degrees. But this is accurate if they change that. Maybe they did that. And the indirect effect is behind you, and that is gonna work up to 5 meters behind you, and this is up to 20. Okay, so the indirect effect usually only have been a sound, like impairment of hearing. So I'm curious to see if this is also gonna be either vision or less accurate firing of weapons. So, but this is I like such overview here. I think this is a good improvement to the patch notes really in general. Good job there. So increase the frag grenade's damage and effective range. Frags previously had to be within 2.6 meters of a player models to deal lethal damage. They now deal lethal damage up to 3.5 meters, moderate damage from 3.5 to 8.5, and low damage from 8.5 through 10 meters. Stun grenades' blinding effect have been improved. First, let's explain some terms. Direct effect, let's get the picture and we'll say this. Direct effect is defined as stun grenade explosions occurring within a 100-degree angle of the player's visual field. Indirect effect occurs when the stun grenade explodes outside that direct area, and players are within 5.5 meters of the explosion. Okay. The maximum effective range of stun grenades have been increased to 20 meters, which was, I think, was it 15 before? Well, depending on the distance from the explosion, the direct effect can blind the player for a maximum of 5.5 seconds and a minimum of 1 second when 20 meters away. So this is a nerf. That's a nerf. Previously, it was able to blind longer than this. Of course, I don't have the number in my head. I think it was 8. Yeah. Depending on the distance from, but I know this is a nerf, okay? Depending on the distance from the explosion, the indirect effect can blind the player for a maximum of 3 seconds. Well, there you have it. I guess you can just read the notes, but that's exactly how it should be. So this is perfect. Character blinded by stun grenade now cover their faces. I guess, okay, there you also have that. This is a new animation. Spectators are now also blinded when spectating someone hit by stun grenade. Stun grenades will now briefly blind and deafen the thrower if they explode behind their back when cooked. You'll now be unable to ADS while blinded. So this is amazing. I mean, this is awesome. Stun grenades will now be like flashbangs in CSGO with these changes, I do believe. Now, this is really going to make them a critical component of tactical short-range battle gameplay. So, and I don't see pro players not using this. I just don't see it. This is really cool, and we're gonna see some really cool stuff happening in tournaments and of course in our own games as well. So really excited about this one. This is perfect. Really good. Can't wait to use these things here. Molotov cocktails now have new effects and their damage has been increased. Molotovs can now indirectly damage and burn enemies as damage over time. Because previously you had to stand in it, otherwise you did not take damage. Depending on whether or not you're standing directly in the flames. Okay, that was part of the settings, but yeah, okay, it's cool. I really like this. If you're in the flames, you'll take both types of damage. Oh, so if you're in the flames, you're gonna take direct damage plus the damage over time. Sounds pretty bad. I mean, that sounds like it's gonna kill you. You're not gonna be able to survive standing in a Molotov. You did that before, so that's... Well, you could survive jumping in a Molotov. Well, anyway, this is really cool. Indirect damage, taking when standing in flames, has been increased from 10 to 12.5 damage per second. Ouch. After catching fire, players will take burn damage as damage over time, 10 damage per second for a total of 4 seconds. Wow. So that's going to be like 40 damage over 4 seconds. And this is going to be like 50. So you take 90 damage in 4 seconds. So 5 seconds inside a Molotov and you're dead. So you should be able to get out of that in time. But still, that's really good. It's a lot of damage. You'll now be unable to go ADS while taking burn damage. Also cool. Flames now spread further along wooden surfaces in houses. Flames from Molotov spread further if another Molotov is thrown on top of the flames. Oh, so they will like buff each other. So A new animation has been added for character models who are suffering burn damage. They'll attempt to pat out the flames using their hands. Cool. Adjusting some weapon and attachment balance. This is really exciting. Reduced vertical and horizontal recoil of the SCAR-L. Damn. So that is cool, because already the SCAR-L has really good recoil. When you check my video on the different recoil patterns for the assault rifles, you would see that the SCAR-L, while worse in recoil control compared to the M4, it wasn't that bad. So this is really interesting. I'm gonna have to have a closer look at that, of course. Trust me. But yeah, that's cool. Decreased basic damage of the M24 from 88 to 79. Of course, they need to do this because the M24 will no longer be dropped in care package. It spawns in the world. So that's why. The tactical stock and cheek pad are now less effective at improving recoil recovery rate. It now improves ADS speed. Boom, boom. That is cool. Now, I don't know how much it's gonna improve the ADS speed, but what I'm thinking is that a lot of people, including myself, actually kind of like to have a thumb grip on an M416 because you get into ADS that much quicker. Of course, this is sacrificing the great handling of a half grip, but if you can now put a half grip on it and have the tactical stock and still have good ADS speed while having really good handling, that is something I would consider a pretty significant buff to the M416. And while also having a pretty good buff on, well, I don't know how good, but it is a buff to the SCAR-L. This might be, you know, an expression of, hey, we know that the 5.56 assault rifles are kind of weak, so we want to give them a little buff here because we know that they need it. I'm not seeing anything about the M16A4, so that will probably come later because that definitely needs some love as well. And now, our beloved lightweight grip. Adjusted light grip. Lightweight grip no longer affects weapon basic recoil control or recoil recovery speed. So it's no longer going to have this insane high vertical recoil, which is definitely needed, but because it's really bad. So this is going to change a lot in the total grip comparison because, well, obviously it's going to change completely. Light grip now decreases first shot single shot recoil by 15%, and we will have to check that. Animation kick reduction has been reduced to 20% from 30%. Now this right here is an expression of how high your aim will bounce up when you shoot. So before it was actually kind of low, but it was very inconsistent. Now with this, I think this is going to make it way more consistent. I will have to test it in a single shot comparison, but I think this is going to make it more consistent because if you have 30% on this, like the way it seems to me like it was working when I did the test, yes, this was a good reduction, but if you have a really high reduction on this, then I feel like some shots are going to have this, like the big reduction, and other shots are going to have a low reduction. It looked like it, how the randomization works. And I think this is basically a nerf. So, but I think it's going to work as a buff instead. So it's a bit tricky, but I think this is going to make it more consistent and easier to predict where your reticle is going to end up after a shot. So cool, I'm gonna look into that. To make the vector a little easier to find, we've increased its spawn rate at the expense of the spawn rate of the UMP9. Overall SMG spawn rate remains the same. So you're gonna have fewer UMP9s and more vectors, which is honestly a good thing because I feel like the balance between the vector and the UMP, well, I feel like there's a good balance there. So it's not like the vectors looks like a million times better. So it shouldn't be that much harder to find. Yes, it's going to beat an UMP close range most likely, but on a bit longer range, like let's say 50 meters, the UMP is going to win. Also have more bullets, etc. So I think this is a cool change. And we got increased world spawn rate of DMRs. Awesome. This is awesome because a DMR is so important when you get that SMG. Because with an SMG, you need something that can kill moving targets on 100 meters plus. And a DMR is perfect for that. So, added the UI message showing when healing items can't be used. Oh, cool. So, new anti-cheat tech. I did read something about this, and this is interesting because first of all, what I want to say here is that the anti-cheat has been under a suspicion by many for reducing game performance. And while there haven't been really, to my knowledge, any like super major statements about this, I got a feeling that that might be true because we've seen some weird stuff with this. And so what this is that I'm going to read this and we're going to talk about it. This new anti-cheat tech will be applied to the test servers soon. Okay, which means that I'm not sure, maybe it's not there right away, but we're going to have to check. So we've added new anti-cheat solution developed in-house at PUBG Corp. So it's their own stuff. Before we implement this tech on the live servers, we'd like to first see how it works out on the test server. For this, we'll need your help. Expect to see a new pop-up when you start the client. It'd be more helpful for us if you run the anti-cheat tool using security mode, but if that gives you problems, please choose compatibility mode. So my thoughts on this is that it is great because not only is it designed by PUBG Corp themselves, meaning that it's gonna not bug up the game, most likely. It's not gonna cause severe performance decreases. It's gonna, you know, make the game still run okay. So that's really cool. And another thing is that they can update this easily and they can keep on top of this, and it's probably going to be more effective because it is designed to the game specifically. It's not some anti-cheat system that you just buy a license and put on your game. They made this stuff themselves. So hopefully this is going to be really good. And so of course, as they say, go into compatibility mode if you get problems, but please help them test this. So go into security mode. For God's sake, do this. We want good anti-cheat, so do this. And now to this, performance. In the latest week's developer blog that I did have a video about here on the channel as well, we wrote in detail about the upcoming work we'll be doing to increase performance holistically. Many of these fixes will take time to deliver, but we've already finished a handful of fixes that should make a positive difference. Yes! So let's get into it. We've improved the character model rendering process to prevent some small frame drop issues. Small? Well, the moment you have a lot of characters nearby, the FPS goes haywire. So maybe it's not going to be that small after all, but it's good. We've optimized character movement and animation while skydiving to improve the frame rate when multiple players are nearby. Nice, especially this is going to be early game. We've made some improvements to our network code to reduce network latency, going to reduce desync, most probably. And then we've increased the speed at which the player transfers servers about objects, items, doors, and fences to address the fact that sometimes items spawn in late after players parachute in. Great, so you're not going to drop down and, well, the guy behind you that dropped in later going to get the weapon and you're not, so that's good. We've improved some inefficient processes with the way the server updates certain frames and vehicles and character models. This should resolve some abnormal physics affecting vehicles. Okay, so I did ask PUBG Corp if this is going to be active on this weekend's test server patch on Sanhok, the jungle map, the experimental test server. And the answer is yes. And this is particularly interesting because last time we had that, there was a lot of lag and FPS drops in the beginning, but these things here, especially this, should improve the frames in the beginning a lot. I mean, we should notice this. If this is working, we're gonna notice it, and I think it's gonna work. Also, this is gonna make an impact. So I'm really curious about that, and I really hope that as many people as possible are gonna participate in both the test server here and the experimental test server so we can get this properly tested. And then let's go on to the sound here. The sound, you can now toggle the new HRTF, head-related transfer function, sound feature in the options menu for opponent gunshots only. So this is the new gunshot sounds. If you don't like them, you can turn them off. But if you like them, you can let them be on. And what this is basically, well, it says that the feature which stimulates fully three-dimensional sound, even for 2-channel stereo headphones, was explained in greater detail in our devlog last week. Yes, they did explain this, and basically it's gonna make it easier to pinpoint the direction of where a gunshot has been fired. But from my experience so far, it is also harder to hear how far away the gunshot is. So it's like, in order to know where someone is, you need a direction and you need a distance. I feel like it was a bit harder to know the direction before if you disable this, but also easier to know how far away people are. So you're gonna have to play around with this and find out what like which one you like the best. But I would probably advise staying with this, like have it on. I would probably be my advice, and to just get more training in determining how far away people are. I think that's the best way to go. And then we got reduced volume of the care package airplane. Oh, this is really good. It's always been too loud. It has been reduced before, but this is really good. I'm not sure how big of a reduction this is, but this is really good. A lot of people are gonna love this, really. So let's get to the bug fixes, the final part of the patch notes here. So fix some issues causing abnormal collisions in spots on the wrangle and Miramar. Probably what this is that when you're driving, you hit a rock that is super tiny and your vehicle just crashes violently. So this is really good. You're not gonna have those on the same scale as before, I think. And then the characters should no longer get stuck while vaulting in particular spots around the wrangle. Good. Fix an issue allowing characters to pass through objects in certain locations on Miramar. Improve the accuracy of the throwing trajectory indicator for stun grenades. A good thing to do. Well, is this a bug? It looks like it is just an improvement, not like a bug. But anyway, it's in the bug section here, but another buff or improvement for the stun grenades. Then we got fixed a visual glitch in the inventory screen that occurred when attaching a choke to the sawed-off. Fixed an issue that was resulting in some strange collisions if players ever jumped on top of a vehicle which had players in it. Scope zeroing of the crossbow is no longer incorrectly enabled and set to an incorrect value by default. Cool. So this is probably something they noticed when they did the crossbow event just here. That's good. It was overcomplicating the crossbow anyway, so I like this. Fix an issue causing stun grenades to appear to bounce around for a while after breaking a window. Fixed an issue where the cheek pad's vertical recoil control attribute was excluded in the game tooltip. Fixed an issue which prevented the cheek pad from adding 10% vertical recoil recovery when attached to the SLR. Oh, really? So the SLR is getting a buff. It's a fix, but it's a buff. Now when you attach the cheek pad on the SLR, it's gonna get 10% better vertical recoil recovery. Cool. Maybe I'm gonna use it a bit more then. I don't know. Fixed an issue when hip firing for an extended duration, the gun would appear to be lowered. Fixed an issue that caused the effect from stun grenades to appear differently depending on the graphical settings. Good. Because you don't want stun grenades to work differently when you have different settings. It needs to be the same for everybody. So cool. What I'm thinking here is that this is quite awesome. And I just think that it's really important that everyone participates in this. Go to the test server, test it. Make sure you help with this. And again, I also asked PUBG Corp if this is gonna stay longer on the test server than normal, and the response I got was that ideally it will, but it depends, you know, guys. It depends how many people are actually playing this, because if there's no one playing it like there was last time, then it makes no sense for them to have it there in the first place. So we need to, like, everyone needs to play this. Otherwise, I mean, if we're not playing it and helping ourselves, we can't really hold PUBG Corp accountable for not having it on the test server for long enough. So if we want this to be awesome, we have to help. So, but yeah. really excited about this. It's gonna be awesome. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Another one of these videos where I talk about the patch notes. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments below. And also check out this, Wacky Jacky merch. And this is my new merch line. There's also going to be a link to this in the description below, so you can check out my merch. I really like it myself. I think it's really cool. So guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.